put my hand right there.
But I thought you were gonna, I wasn't.
3 down animation, 2.
That was on you.
You don't know what ethnicity you are. Y'all wake up.
I can't believe they let
I'm done
Right.
with you. I'm done.
Me too.
What?
We're
I had nothing
both
to
mad.
do with this. This is you guys. All with the handshakes and the big. You know each other. Every day you got to shake the hands. I don't understand it.
Who cleared that to go on television?
Let Keta go out.
Yeah, exactly. Our main boss, Matt Katanik, is in Iceland right now, and now, I mean, you've got the inmates running the asylum.
Why
Misquote
can't you
Bob
guys
McNair.
just high-five each other?
High-five each other?
Yeah, look, high-five.
Nope.
High-five.
Nope.
What is the deal? Who can't? High-fiving did not go anywhere. I high-five people all the time.
I can't believe that just made it on television. At least your dancing was good. But I'm mad. I'm mad.
All right.
They were like, be quiet, guys. We got something to show you.
Yeah, they said this is going to be good. The prompter said that was funny. Back to the NFL, Seattle likely to release Richard Sherman today, working for him. Well, he's a 5-time Pro Bowl cornerback with as much passion for the game as just about anyone. Working against him, he'll be 30 at the end of the month and coming off an Achilles injury that ended his season last year. Now, the Patriots have been linked to Sherman as a team since they'll most likely get rid of Malcolm Butler. CC, should Super Bowl contenders be interested in Sherman's services?
Whew. Buyer beware. And the reason why, who is Richard Sherman at 30 years old? Like, I don't know that. So if you're a Super Bowl contender, like, I don't know what you're getting. I know the player who got hurt. And I know that when he got hurt, that there was a slight decline in his overall ability. The stats, they tell that story. Now, Richard Sherman, who is he? He played in an elite defensive system, all right? He is a big corner who was very, very good at bump and run, but very, very good at also playing zone that looked like man-to-man. He benefited from the rush that they had. He also benefited from Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor playing in that secondary because they could erase any mistakes. What's my problem with Richard Sherman? I'm concerned about his overall ability to be able to change directions, put his foot in the ground. Now, we're not talking about a knee injury, a shoulder injury. We're talking about an Achilles tendon, which when you rupture your Achilles, they go in, and now your Achilles is shorter. So how explosive we've seen basketball players and skilled guys struggle with their comeback from an Achilles injury. The other thing, alarming news came out of Seattle that he had a procedure done on his left Achilles after he blew out his right one. So in the process of hurting his right Achilles, he injured his left one that had to be surgically repaired. So we're not talking about one Achilles for a 30-year-old cornerback. We're talking about two. And where does it affect you most? In your short area quickness. Where does short area quickness affect you? Playing bump and run at the line of scrimmage. So Richard is a long strider. He's got long legs. He's got long arms. But the thing about Richard, how you could attack him is changing direction. Because his short area quickness, even when he was healthy, was probably the weakest area to his game. So now he has an Achilles injury on both Achilles, not one. So to me, how effective would he be as a bump and run player? I believe he can be a smart, savvy, off-the-ball player in zone, but how effective would he be in man-to-man? I believe will be proved out that he won't be that dominant man-to-man cover guy that we've seen in the past.
And what's one of the major reasons Richard Sherman was a 5th-round pick? You mentioned short area quickness. What about down the field speed?
Yes,
like
not the fastest of the elite corners. I would say he's one of the slowest elite corners that we've seen.
Right. He's made it work because he is so physically imposing for the position, and he's so smart.
Man,
you listen to
he's
him.
so smart now.
I mean, he's the guy that obviously he went to Stanford on an athletic scholarship, but the academics were not too hard for him at Stanford.
Let's watch this play right here with Brandon Marshall. He reads the inside release, and the reason why people say, well, he looks like he's guessing. All great corners, they're guessing because you can't sit back and react to NFL offenses because he reads the inside release. He knows inside release, inside route. He doesn't know where Brandon's going, but he knows it's probably to the middle of the field. So he anticipates that and comes up with the interception. So Richard Sherman, and in the football world, man, he is a brilliant, very, very underrated as far as his smarts and understanding what defenses have to do and what offenses are trying to do to him.
Just real quick, Jenna, before you jump in, this is why I wanted to talk about this in this context. Like, we knew we were going to talk about Richard Sherman on the show today, and I said before the show, I was like, I want to talk about it about how can he help you at this phase of his career? Because Sherman's one of my favorite players in the league because of the things he stands for, because he's not afraid of anyone. He will have real conversations about real things on and off the field. But the blown Achilles terrifies me. His age scares me. Leaving the only system he's known, the only team he's known, and the only head coach he's known. So I feel like when Richard Sherman, if the reports are correct, is released later today, what a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, he could be the final piece for this puzzle. Oh, look what he could do for a team like Dallas that needs help there. I just don't know if that player is who anyone would be getting.
And one thing I want Richard to concentrate on is get back to the basics of playing the game. As you can see in the last couple years, he got involved in the play calling out the offensive coordinator, yelling at the head coach. Now, I told you last year when he yelled at Pete Carroll is not that guy. He is not going to allow that. So people say, oh, man, these guys are running Seattle. I told him Pete Carroll will have the final say. And as we saw yesterday, Michael Bennett, where's his residence now? Philadelphia. Richard Sherman, one of the other guys, he's looking to get cut. So Pete Carroll, I knew eventually that this would wear itself out and Richard would wear out his welcome there in Seattle. Get back to it. Now, Richard, if they had traded him to the Rams, I believe he could have helped out a player like Marcus Peters. So I believe there is value to Richard Sherman and having him on your roster. He does have championship pedigree, but the corner that you're getting, I don't know who that guy is going to be until I see him on the field.
So the news that's out that we're sort of keying in here is the fact that the Patriots are one of the teams who's actually interested in Richard Sherman's services, and I wonder if it's because of the other aspect of it. I'm sure Belichick's not looking at a guy that's coming off an Achilles injury that did work on his other and saying, oh, he can really help our team physically, but maybe because of how intelligent he is and because of how much he knows the game and because of how much he probably doesn't need to be coached or coddled in any of that regard. Is that why he would would the Patriots be a good landing spot for him?
The Patriots are always a good landing spot if a player is willing to buy into the system. What happened to Malcolm Butler on Super Bowl game day is real to Richard Sherman. And if he can't trust the head coach, which that story about not explaining why Malcolm Butler is out there, that's something that Richard Sherman would have to know. And to think that Malcolm Butler, at this stage of his career, is not as good a player as Richard Sherman or potentially better, that to me is, I don't think they're getting better at corner by having Richard Sherman there. Does he fit into the system as far as the type of guy that they see come to him late in their career? Yes, it's worked for other guys. I don't know if Richard Sherman is that Belichick type guy.
Before we just exclusively look forward on Sherman, I just want to go back to the game in which he was injured and just remind the audience of what the visuals were. That was a nationally televised game. I don't know if it was Thursday night or
it was a Thursday night.
Thursday night
game. They brought into question the short time in recovery.
Correct. I knew it was a night game. First of all, he's playing the entire season up to that point knowing he's got an injured Achilles, knowing it could snap. Second of all, he also knows prior to the year, this team shopped me.
At the Combine.
At the Combine. He knows all that. He's still out there playing every single game. Guy had never missed a game in his career prior to this injury. And if you remember, after he got hurt, he did not go to the locker room. He did not take a card off the field. He stayed on the sideline with his teammates and talked to essentially all the Seahawks who had been there as long as he had been there. It felt to me in the moment, and I think we talked about it that Friday, he knew this is probably my last moment as a Seattle Seahawk and wanted to experience the rest of that game with his teammates. He is, to me, next to Russell Wilson, the face of this era in Seattle, and I'm rooting for him. I just feel like that's a tough injury, man. That's, to me, a worse injury than an ACL for a player his age at his position. So it's scary to me about what he will be moving forward.
It's a sad story.
Cowboys could use him.
Coming up.
Throwing that out there.
Cowboys, you said?
They could use him.
How would leaving the Cavs the second time impact LeBron's legacy? Talk about that next one. First things first.
Moving expensive.
It's expensive.
It's expensive, man.
Steep.